Tess?
Yeah?
Do you know how to make the computer talk to the screen?
Yell at it.
Presentation. Hooray! Okay, but I have to touch it to make the slides go. Well, now I'm drunk on power, though. All right, I feel like maybe I should just start this business.
Start.
My security blanket. Okay.
You could do this.
All right, well, I am Lee Brontide. This is Cyborg Psychology. If you're in the wrong panel, sneak out. I won't blame you. I've done it. Thank you all for coming. I have been hoarding information on this subject for 20 years now. And I'm very excited that people have come to listen to me info dump about it. We're about here. I am a local therapist and also science fiction author and also a queer disabled nerd. And all of those are lenses through which I am viewing the stuff we're going to talk about today. And now I need a diagram that was supposed to be on the screen.
Do charades. We're trying to do this. Oh, whiteboard. Whiteboard.
Yay!
Analog.
I need a lovely assistant. The liaison for CONvergence's invited participants, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so we are going to begin with the device that I got started on. This is the device that made me interested in this subject over 20 years ago. And it is a particular kind of device. I actually can draw, which is what really irritating about this. That connects to the left ventricle of your. This is a heart. Trust me, this is completely a heart. That then comes down. This is your body. I'll handle this right. Like I don't need to censor anything. And then has a device that comes out that is worn, kind of like my little microphone guy here today. And the thing about this device, thank you, down now, is it is for if you're having pretty severe heart failure. And what it does is it keeps the blood moving, because that's the main thing that we want your heart to be able to do. The thing that caught my attention about this ventricle is that the modern ones are what we call continuous flow. There are ones that do the, like your heart does, right? This is my ba-dum. Everybody don't look at my desktop though. Are we there? Are we there?
Start the first slide. All right, just, I'm not touching it.
But I need to change slides.
Just touch the screen. You touch the screen, it changes the. Oh, yeah! Terry, seriously, just wait for it and just touch the screen.
Just touch the screen? It's not up anymore.
Oh, of course not.
Okay, let me blow your minds while they're doing this. The thing about these heart valves is that once you have one implanted, you no longer have pulse. No pulse. The blood just flows continuously, right? It doesn't need to ba-dump, because it's more like this is not a great analogy, but it's like a little fan that's just pushing the blood through. And the thing about that is that we have a bunch of knowledge that your pulse is part of how your brain figures out what you're feeling. Anime loves to talk about this. They got the wall bang and the suspension bridge effect that they talk about like constantly, where if you can like slightly make somebody anxious, they might mistake it for being attracted to you. I don't know that this works, but high school anime really likes to talk about it. So if you have one of these valves, you no longer have the ba-dum in your heart. And I have looked, and I have looked for years to say, all right, does this have an impact on a person's emotions? And for about the first 15 years, the answer was nobody has tested it. And I'm not, oh, skip the slide because I don't have my slides up. I am not here to scaremonger about life-saving medical technology. If you have one of these, it is because the alternative is that you are going to die. Okay, so with the research, the priority has been, does this device keep people from dying? And the research is pretty good. They now have these that can be implanted for 14 years. They started off as kind of a stopgap measure, and now it turns out, actually, we've got pretty good ones. They can stay in there for a really long time and do their job. Last couple years, we finally have research that people are starting to look into how does this affect people emotionally. I mean this with no shade to the medical industry, but the research is mainly being conducted by nurses and not mental health people. And they keep conflating depression and anxiety, which are two very different physiological states. So the research isn't very comprehensive. One study I did find that was very interesting was that a significant percentage of the spouses of people who had one of these implants showed signs of PTSD. But the people with the implants did not. And there's a question then, is this because their feelings are being blunted because their brain is not reading a pulse? Okay? Really using slides, guys.
Working on it.
This panel will be edited with her slides and uploaded eventually.
Which is just gonna make me sound like a nut because I'll just be talking to my...
If you want to get with me later and do a personal recording specifically for uploading, we can do that.
We can dangle a tennis ball so you can talk to that and then
Another reason you might go.
Wow, I'm in maintenance today.
Green screen.
I think this is, it just is gonna be what it is, I guess. All right, so then I'm gonna tell you about, we have the valve implants. The next technology that's coming down is artificial hearts. Now these actually already exist, which I didn't know until I started digging into this, because they are short term, because we have a pretty sizable tube now coming from inside your body to outside, and that has a pretty big infection risk. But if you're, for example, waiting on a transplant list, and your heart is failing, you might have an artificial heart for a little while. Try and earn you that little bit of time to try and give you a chance to get that transplanted heart. Just like with the left ventricle implant.
Would you like to have this imprinted?
The race is on for the first fully implanted, long-term artificial heart. Okay, this company's developing this. And my favorite of those companies is, and I'm not making this up, you guys, Picard Medical. And yes, they are actually named after Captain Picard and his implanted artificial heart. You will notice an ongoing theme in this is that there are nerds all over this industry. This is probably not shocking, but not just because they're nerds. My favorite about Picard Medical. Okay, so we live in Minnesota. Medtronic is here. Big company. The U of M is here. A lot of this data is happening right in your own backyard. And I have family members who work for Medtronic, and I'm kind of like, hey, can you get me in touch with the people who work on the left ventricle heart valve people? I just want to ask them some questions. Can you do that? And my sister's like, no. But just for the hell of it, I emailed Picard Medical when I was preparing for this presentation, which I started doing Monday after last year's CONvergence when I heard what the theme was. And I emailed them and I said, hey, have you guys ever researched what the lack of a pulse does to emotion regulation? Because this also doesn't have a pulse. Pulses, that's just an obnoxious kind of mechanic to do. Things wear out. So it just isn't a thing. And they emailed me back! They get to be my favorites now. And the head engineer of Picard Medical's permanent internal implanted heart said, yeah, I think that probably would cause a disquieting blunting of emotion. And yes, I think science fiction authors should actually be getting on this because it's interesting. So it's not just that, like, we're not doing it because medical doctors don't care about mental health. They are developing the technology that can last, that can save people, that can be stable. Although there have been several recalls of those heart valves, which if you want to imagine what it takes for something to be recalled after it's been implanted in a bunch of human bodies, you know, there's maybe a little cause for concern there. I need this back. Please? Can I have my computer? It's in the zone.
Is it my passport? Okay.
All right. So, the other place that emotions come from that you might not expect is the digestive system. This is pretty new information. This stuff has started to come out after I left grad school for becoming a therapist. And the information that we have is now actually a fair amount of your neurotransmitters are actually made down here, not up here.
Back.
Oh, thank you. This is the letter they sent me. Okay. So there are microbes in your gut that actually may outnumber you, as in the cells in your body with actually your DNA. And a bunch of them make neurotransmitters. Now the neurotransmitters are not then coming up and entering into your brain. There's a blood-brain barrier that keeps that from happening. But they do interact pretty directly with your central nervous system to talk to your brain. And there is evidence that suggests that if the dopamine is off down here, you can have depression. So the implants that we have right now that interact with the digestive system are basically trying to step as lightly as they can. Moving blood is kind of a mechanical thing. Your digestive system is absorbing things and synthesizing things and all kinds of stuff that our current technology is just not good at. So the implants we have now, which are many, I'm not going to be able to cover every kind of implant that we have out right there because we have a lot of them. They're tiptoeing. They're doing as little as possible. However, you guys know Murderbot? I don't have any of that. I hope no one in here has any of this. There's no digestive system in there. Do we think the company is worried about where Murderbot is making all their norepinephrine and their dopamine and everything? Are they concerned about Murderbot's depression? If they are, they're very bad at doing anything about it. Yeah. So, if we're talking about sci-fi implants and we're talking about the digestive system, I just think this would be a fun thing to think about and include. I'm a science fiction author. I think about, ooh, how can I make this weirder for fiction? All right. So that's kind of the below the neck stuff. On to the nervous system, okay? There's a lot going on with nervous system implants right now, and a lot of it is very exciting to me. We got basically, these are arbitrary categories, but I needed something to organize myself around. 3 types of nervous system implants. We got prosthetic control, okay? I have a prosthetic arm, and I want it to be able to move fluidly, like the flesh arm, and I want to be able to feel things with that prosthetic arm. We have neurosymptom. I have an implant in my brain that helps me manage neurological symptoms, or I have a digital interface. Right now, this is mainly for people with very profound paralysis, so they can, for example, still use a computer, write emails, communicate. Prosthetic control option number 1, big The big dogs dealing with this right now is the US military. DARPA invested heavily in this in kind of the early aughts. There was a program called Haptics, and the goal was for an arm, a prosthetic arm that both moves and senses more like a flesh hand. Oh, this is fun. They're controlled often. What they'll do is say, let's say I have a flesh arm to here, and then this is prosthetic. They'll take the nerves that should have been connecting down to here, and they'll rewire them up into little spots up here on my arm. And then they'll do a little tattoo around, we connected this nerve to here, and this nerve to here, and this nerve to here. They have a little magnet. And you fit your prosthetic on, and it's got little magnets too. And you fit this one to here, and this one to here, and this one to here. And what that does is that is now having nerve control of the prosthetic. And now they're starting to have also where that can have it's very limited sensation back. It was actually really cute. A lot of the people who were getting these, I want to be able to feel it when I hold my family members' hands. Yeah. So we're not at the Winter Soldier's arms left yet. I did say there was a lot of nerds in this field. One of the big prosthetics that actually came out of this research, this is such a tortured bit of language here. The outcome arm was called Life Under Kinetic Evolution. So they just really wanted it to spell Luke. Again, yes, they are completely explicit that that's what they're doing. All right, then we got prosthetic control option number 2. This is the one that is favored in China. They're kind of the other big dogs in prosthetic research at the moment. And this is for less of a case of amputation. This is again for paralysis. So I have the hand, but it can't feel and it can't move. So now they've got devices that sits on the outside of the brain. We're gonna hook it up back here, outside the dura mater. I didn't say earlier, if I use a word you don't know, please raise your hand. The dura mater is one of the things that encases your brain and keeps bad stuff out. Because if you get an infection in there, it wreaks havoc pretty much immediately. Here, y'all can't see it very well. So we're looking at a thing that hooks up back here. And then it's got wireless control down to, it's like an exoskeleton. It's actually pneumatically controlled. And that will cause the hand to move more or less how you want it to. The main thing that they were going for is just gripping. If you're profoundly paralyzed, just being able to pick up your own water to drink is a very big deal. You're not at this point going to be like writing with it, but you have now the capacity to grasp and move things. And the thing about this one, it is in commercial markets. You can't get the Luke. Well, you can get a version of the Luke, but it doesn't have the some of the stuff I was talking about before. But this is out there. Okay, now I need to actually give you a vocabulary word. Proprioception. Proprioception is the ability to sense where your body is in space. So if I close my arm, I close my eyes, I know my arm is up, my arm is here, my arm is behind me. I don't have to look at it to know what it's doing. I know we were all taught the 5 senses in grade school, right? It's actually more like 22. This is one of them, proprioception is one of them. So, there's a bunch of things that can disrupt proprioception, which is again a thing that they did not talk about when I was in graduate school for becoming a therapist. Some of the ones that I have personally seen are substances, right? This includes the short-term, I had too much Malort in one of the rooms upstairs and now I don't know where my feet are. It can also mean if I have been chronically taking substances, even when I am sober in that moment, my proprioception can be pretty iffy. Trauma can mess up your proprioception. Gender dysphoria can mess up your proprioception. Brain injuries, eating disorders. That's actually one of the ones where it gets studied the most because people often do not actually know what size they are. And this causes their proprioception, their internal body map to be off. and changes in your body, such as, for example, I don't know if you've heard of phantom limb syndrome. If I have lost this arm, that can mess with my proprioception. My brain keeps going, where's the arm? Where's the arm? And panic about it. Also growth. I've got a young kid at home. She is frequently very clumsy because you just grew an inch. Nothing is where you left it. Same thing with teenagers. You know, if you just have a big growth spurt, it takes a minute to figure out, oh, that's how long my legs are now. And other factors. The thing about the human body map is it is weirdly neurologically flexible. All animals have a little bit of flexibility to their body map because they grow. Ours is extremely flexible, and we share that with most of the other primates. And the reason is we're tool users. So we can actually see on neuroimaging, if we have a monkey have to use a rake to get things, we can actually watch the body map in that little cat's brain morph and change to include that rake. Okay, you watch your your samurai movies, and they talk about how you have to become one with the blade. That's not metaphor, that's a neurological reality. Your body map is changing to accommodate a tool that you use really well. This is also why if you're driving and you go under a low tunnel, you do this. Right? Which I feel like more mecha pilots should be doing. Right? Driving around in their Gundam and they do this. Because your body map has morphed to include the tools. This is actually the next slide. The tools that you use often. Over 20 years ago, the guy who's sometimes called the father of virtual reality established that the human brain can accommodate learning to fluidly and intuitively and subconsciously control drastically non-humanoid shapes. Okay, and you gotta trust me, that's a picture of some digital lobsters. At least it was this morning. So 6 legs, right? My brain doesn't have a hookup for 6 legs, it's just 2. But the brain can adapt to, even if, and they can do it on an intuitive level. So I might not be able to say, oh, I know that if I raise my right arm, my left third leg moves. It becomes an intuitive level, just like any other tool use. Which could mean adapting to radically non-human shaped prosthetics. Now we already have some non-human shaped prosthetics because some of those high performance leg prosthetics, you guys seen these for climbing or jumping or running? They're really cool. But ultimately, I got 2 legs, there's something foot-like at the end of them. They move like a human leg. But we could do 6 lobster legs, apparently. The brain can learn to do that. All right, can I change slides now? No.
Theory.
I don't think that theory is solid.
Then it's just a hypothesis.
And having non-human prosthetics can have some potential applications. I would like to show you guys this. This here is the prosthetic tail. Now this is just a wearable device. This is not implanted, but they developed these in Japan to help seniors with poor balance. So the tail automatically, just like my cat's tail, is like managing balance. Oh. Somebody jinx me? Why? To help with the balance. Like I said, this is not an implant, this is a wearable device. But sometimes people are furries. You cannot tell me there's no one in this building who wouldn't have an implanted prosthetic tail if they had the opportunity to. And the brain could almost certainly just learn how to control that.
Yay!
Hey.
I'm not gonna touch it.
But how do I switch? Okay, you know what? You're my lovely assistant now.
I'm your assistant.
Next slide.
Next slide.
Okay. Anyone here heard of the yips before? So the term the yips, first off, comes from the Wizard of Oz novels. It's everywhere. That's the term that they often use in golf, which is one of the places it's better known. Basically what happens is sometimes very high-level experts in a physical activity, that could be a sport, that could be a musical instrument. Pianists sometimes have this problem. They get to be so good at it, and then one day their brain says, we don't know how to do those motions. And it appears to be a problem with the synapses having such a density that the system just kind of collapses. Some people recover, some people don't. There is no treatment. Here we have, of course, the wonderful Steve Miles, who got, in gymnastics they call them the twisties, during a routine and had to withdraw, because if you are upside down in the air, moving at very high speeds, and you suddenly lose your fluid range of motion, you are going to land on your neck and die. I have a theory, a hypothesis, a hunch, that if we did have radically non-human shaped prosthetics, there would be an increased incidence of that developing basically the yips. So I can have my 6 lobster legs, but eventually is my brain going to say, well, I know how to do that, but this was really difficult, and one day I'm going to forget how those lobster legs walk. I cannot think of a single ethical way of testing that. But there's science fiction authors in this room. Have fun. Next slide. Okay, now we're going to talk about neurological condition implants. Now, this annoys me because fiction doesn't show any interest in this for the most part. I'm sure there's exceptions. Please come up to me after the panel and tell me about it. But these are implants in the brain to treat a neurological condition. Next slide. And we have them. Mayo Clinic does this. You can go down to the Mayo Clinic and get one of these. Not easily. You can. There's already, you can see there's a bunch of things that we're already treating. The one I was most familiar with was epilepsy, but you can see there's others. These are currently being researched. There's some very promising depression-related research going on right now about how these deep brain implants might help people with depression that has not responded well to therapy or antidepressants. Next. And here's how it goes. This is an actual picture. This is a X-ray of somebody who has one of these. These are the electrodes. And then we got this whole little Christmas light situation up here under the skull. So you're awake when this is put in. You drill a little, you want to be, because then you can say, nope, that's not the spot. They drill a little hole, put in the electrodes, and then this guy here is a wire. So then coming down under your skin, down under here, through here, and then there's a little implant right under your collarbone. And that is where the battery lives. So you don't want that in your brain. And that is where the programming lives. And periodically you will have to go back in and then pop your battery out, change it out, all of that. And it comes with a remote control, which I find largely terrifying because I always lose the remote control. And also have, again, a young child who likes to steal the remote control and push the buttons. But they're there and they work. Next. No, wrong way. There we go.
That's for the computer.
Yes. But it is a little complicated. For example, European doctors and American doctors often disagree for each condition where you should put the electrodes. I don't know, something about that worries me. And the side effects are very hard to determine and then warn people about because, like, for example, did this make the patient with dementia's impulsivity worse? Or did it just make them less exhausted all the time? So the impulsivity that was already there, they now have the energy to go out and be driving or whatever it is that they maybe should not be doing. So we don't really always know what the side effects on some of these things are. This is fascinating to me. Only some iterations of these things are responsive. Why does hoarding not respond to this, but sexual religious OCD does? And those are not like perfectly clear delineations, like you can have some of more than one of these types. And sometimes the electrodes, you know, your brain is kind of jello consistency, so sometimes stuff can move around in there, which is not great because you want to be pretty precise when you're implanting using brains. We will talk more about that later. And sometimes the improvement takes a long time. Was it the thing? Was it not? Etc. All right. Wow, that is not what that is supposed to look like. This is the dot. It is about the size of a blueberry. And again, this is sitting just outside your dura mater. And the goal here is to have one of these that kind of projects in without having to put electrodes in your brain. And that we have something that's, again, implanted back here and then controlled externally. That said, if you think something that's sitting on your brain and controls aspects of your brain externally sounds a little creepy, again, I invite you to write some science fiction. Yeah.
I will do both.
We will do both. Give me this so I can see what I'm doing, please. Yeah, oh, and they are working on these now. Right now, if you had this little guy implanted on your brain, it's just going to do whatever preset signal the doctor told it to. There are implants in the work now that are going to be like, oh, that looks like a seizure. Let's activate the anti-seizure protocol. So those are very much in the works. They're coming. My favorite one of those, actually, it's not on the market yet, but it's in development. It comes with a programming baseball hat. So the device just sits there and it does what the baseball hat tells it to. You can wear the baseball hat whenever you need to, which I did not have down on like my vision of what a cyberpunk future looks like. Cyber is walking around in a baseball hat. Somebody asked me once, well, could you get like your favorite team at least on it or something? Not yet, we can't. All right, next. Hi, Jordy. All right, we're gonna talk about the senses. Yep. Okay, cochlear implants. By a wide margin, the most common neurologic implant. They've been around longer than I have. You can have them starting, I think, 7 months up to being a senior citizen. All right, that's the cochlea. So if we got a cochlear implant, we got the receiver dinghy outside, the microphone outside, the battery outside, and it hooks up again, magnets, so many magnets, back here to the actual implant that's attached to the cochlea. This guy right here. And the thing about it is it bypasses all this business. All that business, we're just not even going to use it. Screw ears, who needs them? And they send electric signals, right? Which is pretty much how your brain talks to itself anyways. Next. But for being the oldest, arguably the most stable, they're pretty controversial. A lot of members of the deaf community say, well, they're kind of trying to fix something that we don't regard as a problem. And what happens is, these things, they do not give sound like what you're hearing, at least most of you, right now. It is tinny, it is staticky. When you first get it, you usually can't tell what it's trying to tell you at all. You have to learn how to understand it. It doesn't have tone. So like if someone's being sarcastic and sassy to you, or if you speak a tonal language, this is going to be a problem. And to do this, they have to hook up your ear in such a way you can never return to hearing aids. Everything that was there before of your hearing in that ear is gone. So it has to be implants from then on. And if your implant is discontinued or breaks down, it's a good $50,000 to get a new one of these guys. Most insurance covers them. Just like how they covered my hearing aid. However, that's sort of like, once you've met your deductible and the stars align, it took me 20 years to get this. But you can't go back to a hearing aid once you got a cochlear implant. So you are locked in, and many kids, especially little kids who have these, are then expected to kind of just go into the hearing world. They're often not. This is changing a little bit now, but they're often not taught ASL. So now you are completely dependent on this thing that costs $50,000 and can be discontinued. On that note, next. Let me tell you about the Argus 2. Now that's what cyberpunk looks like, right? Glasses, they've got a camera, and then we're sending the signals from the glasses into nerves directly in your brain. Again, we're not at Geordie levels here. What it detects is pretty limited. You can recognize really big letters, you can see colors, you can usually see stuff well enough to not run into things. And the actual implant goes into the eye. I accidentally saw some of the photos from the surgeries. I have a thing, guys, it was kind of upsetting, but it goes right back there onto your retina. Pop that out, put in the thing, pop it back in again. Next. And the Argus 2 was discontinued. And the company that was making it merged with another company and just stopped responding to everyone who had the implant. This is completely legal. The company decided they wanted to focus on digital interfaces, and in this case, this is very cyberpunk, a complicated semi-underground network of makers and doctors developed to try to keep the implants maintained. Because if something breaks down, you need some specialized people to help you fix it. However, next slide, it is completely within the company's legal rights to stop you from doing that. It's proprietary data, and even in states like Minnesota that have fairly robust, I'm doing questions at the end? Okay. Pretty robust right to repair laws like Minnesota has a clause that exempts medical implants. Now there is a logic to this. We don't want people buying their heart valve from the back of some guy's van. Okay? You actually do want quite a bit of testing, proof, all of this to make sure that what we're putting into people is safe. However, that means that a company that has discontinued your device technically can say, no, you can't cobble something together to try to maintain that. Complicated legal situation. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's talk about it. Brain to digital interface implants. This area is exploding, like today, like 2026, right now. And every time you look up any of it, you get a whole big face full of Neuralink. Neuralink. It's a lot of, even when I was talking about the pneumatic stuff before, half of the articles are actually, Elon Musk is competing with China. I'm like, first off, those are not the same thing. And they're always talking about Neuralink. And before I go into Neuralink too much, I just want to say they are not the only, they are not even the best. Less invasive, longer lasting, cheaper per patient. Axoft has developed implant materials that are as soft as human tissue. So now we have like jiggly implants. We already have jiggly implants, but that's
Brain and jiggly.
yes, for neurological and potentially eventually also for hearts, so that the squishy insides of us can not be running up against hard things where they can potentially have scarring, which is a problem with the brain implants as well as some of the others. Okay, so let's talk about Neuralink. I really debated with myself about putting this in, but I think it is important. Okay, 2016, Elon Musk and 8 notable scientists from medicine, engineering, I mean really top tier folks, founded Neuralink. Great. They wanted to build something like the neural lace. Again, we are coming from a sci-fi series, nerds everywhere, originally to treat medical conditions, mainly to allow, again, paralyzed people to interact and communicate. Although Elon Musk keeps talking about how AI will make humans extinct if we don't merge with it. I don't know what that means, and I don't want to. By 2018, founding members started leaving, citing that the Silicon Valley move fast and break things is not a great approach when we're talking about brain surgery. Nonetheless, 2019, they start threading incredibly fine filaments into the human brain to try to pick up neurological signals to read brain signals.
That was monkey stuff.
Sorry, yeah, well, primate brains. 2021, they have a monkey playing Pong. I always want to point out, we had that in 2002. But this was wireless. And that is actually a big deal because, again, you don't really want wires coming out of your brain that are just out there in the open air where the germs live. By 2021, only 2 of the original founding members remained at Neuralink, and I believe they were not medical doctors. 2022, the federal government opened investigations for alleged severe animal abuse, extreme suffering. The videos are upsetting. 2024, Elon Musk backs Donald Trump for president, stating on television that he expects to go to prison if Harris wins. Next. I don't know what happened. And Elon Musk is brought in to run DOE. Mass layoffs and management turnover in the Department of Agriculture, who are the ones who are in charge of animal suffering allegations, the FDA, of course, in charge of our medical, and the Securities and Exchange Commission, who are investigating him because if you're hiding the fact that your implant kills monkeys to get better investors, that's fraud. But there were mass layoffs, and all of the investigations on all 3 of those fronts have gone silent. Incidentally, the FDA director who had been overseeing neurological implants previous to that also was not laid off, but quit to work for Neuralink. You may have seen this quote going around on the internet lately. It seems very on topic in our current times. A computer can never be held accountable, therefore a computer must never make a management decision. I would like to propose an additional update to that. A trillionaire can never be held accountable. Therefore, a trillionaire must never be allowed to implant things in anyone's brain. Next. I'm just going to let that one speak for itself. Next one. Okay, but now I've got you all going, okay, so we're in the cyberpunk dystopia. Our computer is going to read our thoughts. And I will introduce you to this gentleman here. This is a real patient. He has a hookup to his brain that allows him to speak. Because his paralysis does extend as far as his mouth. He cannot verbally speak anymore. And his implants, which are not developed by Neuralink, this is developed by university, are 99.7% accurate compared to commanded speech, which is about as good as I can do with my regular mouth. They're developing tone and nuance filters so that he can be sarcastic exactly if he wants to be. And it has to be trained into his specific speech patterns, but that only took like 3 days for that to get going. And there are a bunch of these that are not quite as sophisticated that can, for example, you know what, I'll come back to that. So, can the computer read my thoughts? This computer sure seems to be reading this dude's thoughts. So I'm going to invite you to do a little activity with me. I would like you to imagine a cat. Just take a moment, imagine a cat, however that means to you. And then a lot of people think, well, okay, so then my cat neuron is activated. So all the computer has to go do is say, oh, the cat neuron is activated. They're thinking of the cat, right? I feel like that's how it kind of works in the Matrix. The problem is that you don't have a neuron for cat. You have, I'm going to say thousands, it's actually more like millions of neurons that activate when you think of a cat that are related to memories of how a cat feels, memories of how a cat sounds, memories of your aunt's cat. Again, some of you are furries and are probably thinking of a very different type of image. Some of you might literally just be envisioning the word CAT. But it's millions of neurons all stored in a unique place in your brain that is not like anyone else's, that is unique to your personal experience of cats. Go back a second. If this gentleman thinks cat, the machine is not reading his neuron for cat. What it's actually doing is, I think, cooler, which is what it is doing, it is reading the signals that he is sending to his mouth to say the word cat, which is far less invasive, way easier, way more like, again, Martha Wells with Murderbot, when they're so vocalizing on the feed, they're thinking, saying the word. And then the machine goes, oh, you're thinking how to say cat. The other versions of these that are a little less, much slower, mainly, for example, might think of how you would move your fingers for typing the word cat. So this machine is reading his brain, but in a minimally invasive way, so that when he tries to say cat, he can say cat. Next, we're almost at the end here. So for now at least, your thoughts are your own. If corporations want them, they have to influence them with dark patterns and propaganda the old-fashioned way.
Yay!
All right, looking ahead, we're gonna have more cyborgs. We're just gonna, and the implants are gonna be more precise, more diverse, powerful. I am hoping that as the technology improves, there will be space, precision, and funding to better integrate emotional wellness with these other factors. Being able to communicate is good. Being able to have a pulse, or at least something that your body thinks is a pulse that can react to your emotions, also good. Culture, we have terrible bodily autonomy state of things in the US right now, and consumer and patient protection laws have to catch up and make this safer and more fair. And I hope to see more fiction going deeper into the weirdness of cyborg existence. Yeah, last slide. There we go. Thank you. That's a QR code if you want to check out my website. I have a newsletter where I ramble about sometimes this, sometimes writing, sometimes animating, sometimes spider goat. That's the genetic engineering side of things, not this. That is real. Books, and I have a hand-animated trailer. It's also on there, but it has sound, so don't play it right now. Okay, how are we on time?
You're got like 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Oh my gosh. All right. Questions. Questions first, and then comments if we have time after questions. Oh boy. I think you were fastest on the draw.
Me?
Yeah.
All right. So maybe a fictional example or setting, but do you prefer bionics or cyborg? And do you feel that there's a minimum number of implants or parts that would qualify for whichever terminology you prefer?
I will call anyone with an implant a cyborg if they'll let me. As always, I defer to the person with the implant's preferences. That is what I will go with because it's their implant and their body. Let's hit someone from over here. Yep.
Have you looked into like if there's like advocacy efforts for things like the eyes being,
All right.
now I'm using words too. Like the right to repair or like smelling advocates. I'm worried about something like where you get pacemakers and subscription models. If you can't pay for it,
There are. They're often on things like, for example, like I said, a bunch of those implants.
Could you repeat the question?
Oh, yes, thank you, God. They were asking about if there are advocacy networks for folks. I will say yes, but I think that mostly that tends to lead to things like the recalls, which again, if they think that it's so unsafe that they have to cut it out of your body, then yeah, that should probably be recalled. But again, the culture and the law has lagged. And we're often talking about very small populations. The Argus 2 had only implanted around a couple hundred people. So that's a small network. Did they have a lawyer? I don't actually know. You have been waiting so patiently there in the back with the red hair.
So my question was actually about the Argus too, because you talked about how it's in the eye, it's on the retina. It's now not supported. Like cochlear implants, it doesn't now prevent like other methods of like adding vision or what vision they had before, or do we not know?
So the question was, like I get a cochlear implant, I can't have a hearing aid. Would something like the Argus prevent me from having a different implant for sight? And the answer is we don't really have another one. So it would depend on what method they were using. Like, can that filament be popped off the back of the retina and a new one put on? Yes, actually, because that's how they're repairing them sometimes. But is anyone else doing it? Not that I'm aware of, not that I've been able to locate. again, I think that that's part of why the company is not trying to make them not repair them. There's not like an upgrade that can try to force everyone to go get it instead. Commander Data.
So a lot of sci-fi anime deal with, they're just taking the human brain and putting it into a robotic body.
Yes.
So speaking as a therapist, like, because I don't know if you saw RoboCop 2, but it's like there were some that they turned into RoboCops and they killed themselves. And then Murphy was the only one who survived. Like as a therapist, like how would someone deal with like that? Would they have to have like a strong will or a strong mental focus or?
So willpower is a scam.
I get it.
Oh yeah, go back. Yes. This is one of the slides we didn't get. There is this idea in at least American culture that you kind of the you is the brain. We used to call it the soul. Now it's the brain. But that's the you kind of piloting this meat mecha. I feel like that's a very common arrangement. And if you take one thing from today, other than that we need better cyborgs' rights, is that that's not how it works. If you just plopped a brain into a little android incubator that could keep that brain alive, it's still going to mess with your mental health because where's your pulse? Where's your gut biome? Your brain is very much evolved to hook into having those signals. So you need to at least spoof those signals so that your brain feels that everything is okay.
Like a computer trying to connect to a projector.
Let's circle back.
If you don't want your brain to feel like my PowerPoint presentation, don't just go plunk it in an android body. So we need those signals. Otherwise, you can expect that the emotions are going to get off in some way. It might just be blunted because there's no pulse, or it could be that you become horribly depressed because your gut biome is not talking to your head anymore. And I've yet to see anyone make a story with cyborgs that have like a little pocket of like microbiome, little swamp in there just to keep everything running smoothly. They should. I like it when sci-fi's a little gross. Who else? Do we got time for another?
Yeah.
All right. In 2 minutes. All right.
So not hearing it, but going back to the energy test for a second. So my understanding is when you're spinning around really fast, the fluid in your inner ear is moving a lot, and that's what causes you to get dizzy.
Yes.
So would having a device like that affect like your vertigo or level of dizziness in any way, or is that not how that works?
That is not how that works, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know why. Because it does seem to me that it should, but like my friends who have those implants appear to have reasonable balance for non-athletic people. You're all shocked that my friends aren't all jocks. Curly hearing glasses in the back.
As a matter of policy in regards to right to repair and discontinued cybernetic implants, is there a path forward that you could propose that could protect people who are afflicted by this?
How would I propose legislation to save the cyborgs? I do think, first off, if a company discontinues a product, at least an implant, I won't try to tackle the entire patent industry at once, but if the company stops making it, and it's a implantable device, I think that the schematics for how those are made should become public. And I would love to see them, the big companies that just, all they do is scavenge that, build the products, get FDA approval to make them, and then continue to support those. I also think we should not have I'm trying to come up with a word that I think I want to say it on like an EM panel. Person like the current head of the FDA in charge of the FDA. Here's a word I could say, eugenicist. We should stop having eugenicists in charge of the FDA. Down to culture. We need more of a sense of bodily autonomy broadly in U.S. culture if we really want to protect cyborg rights. Because it actually does have to come down to what are my rights as a person, as a human being. Can I do one more? What do you think?
You're at noon.
I'm at noon. Well, you know what? No one's coming in here for half an hour. I'm gonna keep going, but if you have to go, no judgment.